downtown Des Moines. It's where girls across the state of Iowa put their sights as they look to make their way to Wells Fargo Arena and the basketball state championships. Tonight, the 5A champion will be crowned as Johnston, the number 3 seed, faces off against top-seeded Waukee. Welcome back to another edition of CISN Girls Basketball Breakdown. I'm Tent Condon, joined by the head coach of the Valley Tigers, Joe Sigrist, and on the other side of me, it's Chris Morrow from Beyond Ball, the girls basketball director. Glad to have you aboard with us as we get ready for tonight's matchup. The Waukee Warriors, number 1 on the year, the top seed and the number 1 ranked team against third-seeded Johnston. Both teams come in with a 23-2 record. Coach, starting with you, 2 teams you know incredibly well. You've seen them over the course of the season. You've seen them throughout the years, as your 8 years as a head coach here. This is what we hope for, and this is something we've seen a lot. 2 CIML teams facing off for the Big Town title.
Well, I love it just because it shows the strength of our conference, Trent. And 2 teams that were 3 of our 8 losses this year. Very competitive teams, very well coached, and tremendous athletes on the floor.
Chris, as you look at this matchup here this evening, we're going to dive into it a whole lot deeper. You go these 2 teams, these 2 programs, and this is something that kind of is across the board where everybody puts in the work, but you see this in your program too. Girls, this isn't just about winter sports season. It doesn't start in late November and then end in March. These are girls that put in the time all throughout the year.
Yeah, absolutely. To get to a championship, you have to have great players that put in the work, that want to put in the grind, find time to go to the gym and work on their own in the off season. It's a grind, and that's the difference between championship teams and teams that don't make it, is those players that are wanting to do that.
Well, I want to first start here with the outline of both of these teams and kind of what they are, what their backbone is. Tonight, we're going to get into it a little bit more, what we expect to see, some changes from the nature of what they normally are. But let's go through it and just look at the backbone. Let's start with the top seed in Waukee. Chris Guest, great head coach, has been there for a number of years and still in that program. We've talked about Coach Guest on the sidelines. He's pacing up and down. He's smiling. He's having fun. He's doing his thing. But when you think of Waukee basketball, what's the backbone to you?
Well, you said it right there. They're just extremely well coached. I respect Coach Guest a ton. We've had some heated battles. They got their first championship in 2015 against us. That was our first championship experience. So I think that championship experience that he has as a coach, and then the amazing guard play he has. You start at the top with Katie Dennebeer, the junior, Drake commit. She just stirs the drink for Waukee. And then there's not much of a drop-off with those Kelderman sisters, and they drive and kick. And then I'm really anxious to see what they do defensively against Johnston, because I think that's where they have to get a little creative.
When you think of Johnston basketball, let's go to the other side, Chris, and get your perspective on this program and what the Dragons are. Same thing, 2 guys that know each other very well, Coach Guest and Coach Jellick, who've been together for a long time. But when you think of Johnston basketball, what's the backbone of them to you?
Definitely, they got the best point guard in the state. She's just a leader, and you can see it in the semifinal game. She wasn't scoring there at the beginning, but she's such a good point guard that she shares the basketball, finds the open people, and just a great leader all around. But then you got the rebounding from Maddie Mock. You got Kendall Need that can bring up the ball. She can also post you up. And then let's talk about their bench play. I mean, they're big time in the semifinal game. So it's going to come down to, if their bench can step up. If you have 7 to 9 players that can give you some minutes off the bench, that's huge. And controlling the tempo from Waukee's of the Energizer Bunnies, I guess I should call them.
Joe, I want to get your thoughts on this, being in this title game. We got players and teams that have been out there now. They've all played together now for 2 games as you get to the championship, but it is different. It's different. We talk about the pomp and circumstance and everything leading up to it, but you get to this championship game, there's also TV timeouts. That's another component. There's a longer halftime. So it's more than just the normal course of the basketball season that you're used to. Even the first couple of tournament games, this one is different.
It is different. From the coaches to the players, there's a lot more pregame activities. The coaches are mic'd up. So when we talk about, your preparation, there's a 24-hour turnaround. How mentally prepared are you? We talked about that a little bit last night. And then who's going to be the best when those lights are on and the biggest stage is set. So it'll be interesting to see.
And it should be a great environment inside the building here this evening with the two local teams involved. Johnston, they have been there before but haven't cut down the nets, at least under the current regime for the Dragons. Waukee was there, but it was a number of years ago now, searching for their second title. So, with two teams close, it's a Friday night. Boy, it's going to be a great environment in there.
Yeah, and we talked about that last night. I wouldn't be surprised if the second top row has to be opened up tonight. It's going to be energized. It's going to be loud, and like Joe said, it's going to be what players are going to be able to handle their emotions, what players are going to be able to stop the runs, because there are going to be runs tonight, and it comes down to coaching, and there's going to be a lot of adjustments that may need to be made, and who knows? I mean, maybe they stick to what they do, and but it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be electrifying, and it's going to be fun.
23-2, both squads come in with those records. Should be great. We'll take a timeout. Back with more on Basketball Breakdown.
I trust, yeah, I smell like success, this Elon Musk, huh? Everybody wanna be like us, we don't stop, cause the top just ain't enough, huh? Came here ready to fight on this night, you better just run for your life.
Welcome back once again. It's Basketball Breakdown on CISN. I'm Tent Condon, joined by the West Des Moines Valley head coach Joe Sigrist and Chris Morrow from Beyond Ball. Well, guys, we're going to dive deep into each of these teams. Going to start with the Johnston Dragons, 23-2 on the year. Johnston comes into this one playing great basketball, a hard-fought victory in the quarterfinals as they dispatch their CIML rival as they break down Southeast Polk in that one, and then what we saw yesterday in the victory against Iowa City High. Chris, let's take a look at the keys to the game. When you look at the Dragons from their perspective, your keys for this one.
Definitely second chance opportunities. They got Maddie Mock that's owning the boards that can give them opportunities to score. And then also on the defensive end, one shot and done for Waukee. You can't give them more opportunities to score because they'll hurt you on that. And then protecting the lane, not letting them get to the paint and the kickouts for their threes. Obviously, they broke the record in the semifinal game for knocking down the threes, so defending the outside shot.
As you look at this, Joe, and you look at the keys that Chris put together for us, it's certainly interesting. Two teams that are very similar in a lot of different fashions. That we're not talking about one slow-paced team, one fast. These teams both like get up and down the floor, but that second chance points I think is a real important one here. And we've seen Maddie Mock what she can do on the boards, Kendall Need what she can do on the boards. They get those second opportunities after missed shots. Johnston's tough to beat.
And that's where I think they have the advantage. Johnston has true post players, whereas Waukee is more of a all five guard out system. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about transition is the first key, though. You mentioned that. Both teams like to get out and run. Waukee likes to pressure a little bit more to get them out into transition, whereas Johnston gets a rebound, they outlet quick, and they really get it and push tempo. So seeing which team can expose the other in those arenas will be interesting.
Yeah, going to be really good in that matchup. Let's go a little bit deeper into the Johnston Dragons and take a look at some of the players to watch here tonight. It's a lot of players that we've talked a lot about throughout this one, but start at the top. Joe, who's your top player to watch for the Johnston Dragons?
Maya McDermott, for sure. She's the point guard that stirs the drink. She's going to try to get that original penetration and then dump it off to Need and Mock. And then that's where Waukee has to do a great job of boxing out. Okay, we see right now she has 44 points, 14 rebounds, 12 assists. So she's doing everything. You know, she's close to that triple-double that we talk about that's so special in the game of basketball. So she is one of the best players on the floor, if not the best.
Absolutely, and like I said, she just controls the tempo. And you know, Waukee likes to pressure, but it's hard to pressure a team when you have Maya McDermott. She's just so quick and handles the ball so well. So they're going to definitely have to contain her. And she's just a great passer. If they're going to try to take her away, someone else is going to be open, and Maya McDermott usually finds them.
You know, one other component that we didn't talk about there is what she does on the defensive end of the floor and getting out in space. So quick out there, had 6 steals in the quarterfinal victory against Southeast. But her defense is another big part.
Absolutely, and she's been going up against the best players on each team, but you know, she's just very, she's a grinder. She likes to compete, and she'll compete every possession on both sides of the court.
All right, Chris, who else we got here when we look at the Johnston Dragons? Starting with the point guard, Maya McDermott, as we talked about. Who else are your keys to the game?
I'm going to go with Kendall Need. She's definitely their second top scorer, senior. Like we said, she can do it all. She can bring the ball up. She can post up. She's got a great pull-up. You see she has 38 points on the tournament, 9 rebounds, shooting 11 for 13 from the free throw line. So anytime you can go to the free throw line in a big stage like this and knock down those free throws. But you know, she's just a great leader, and she's you can tell last game she got in some foul trouble, and she kept being that leader and carried on her team.
And I'm going to give you some props too, Chris. She played for your program this summer. I don't know if I saw a more improved player this season from last season. I know she, struggled a little bit in the semifinals against us, but she has been just amazing in this tournament and throughout the whole season. So the improvement she's made gives them a leg up in this game, I think.
Absolutely, and I don't get the credit for that, Joe. She got into the gym, she worked, she went to Camp Dodge and worked at Camp Dodge with a trainer on her body, and you can just tell she's just put in the work, and that's what it takes to become a D1 player. But absolutely, she's kind of stepped it up this whole year from her junior year to her senior season. Yeah,
you talk about the free throws, what she's done on that side, shooting the basketball, incredibly efficient too. 60% from the floor on the year. She can step out, hit the jumper. We're not just talking about layups either. This is a girl that can step out, hit the 15-footer, and from time to time, she'll knock down a three-pointer on you.
Oh, she does it all. And one of their best rebounders. When you put her together with Maddie Mock down there, they can really control the boards. And that's one of our keys to the game. If they limit them to one shot, that's going to be a real key for Johnston's success.
Well, you mentioned Maddie Mock, and another player to watch here this evening for those third-seeded Dragons is Maddie, girl that is toughing it out. And toughness is a component. You can't measure it, no analytics behind it, but there's just something to it. Maddie Mock, she has certainly shown that throughout this year.
She has. Double-double last game, and they needed every one of them against a quality City High team, the number 2 team in the state. So she, again, helps them on the boards, gives them the height advantage, gives them probably a rebounding advantage if there is one, but, Waukee's very fundamentally sound too.
Yeah, absolutely, and she holds the record for the school for most rebounds in a career with over 500 sitting at now. And so when you have a player that can rebound the basketball like that, both defensively and offensively, it just gives you so many opportunities to win the game. Rebounding is huge, and not only that, I think she's a great passer. She draws the defense and has great eyes to find that open person. But again, it comes down to leadership. She's a senior leader. She's been in the program. She's been there, and another D1 player going to Western Illinois.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Chris. They have 3 seniors going on to play Division I basketball. Last year, when we won the championship, had to get that in a little bit.
We see the ring, Joe. We see the ring.
We had 3 seniors lead us, and again, if Johnston has another edge, I think it is their senior leadership.
Another thing about Maddie Mock is we were sitting courtside calling the game on radio, yesterday. 13 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists during the run here during the first 2 rounds. She's limited. You can tell this is not the same Maddie Mock. She has a bum ankle. She's got a big brace on that. You can see it. And there's times where it gets bumped, it gets turned a little bit. You can see the grimace come out there and just gutting it out and fighting through for her teammates.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you know, they didn't even know if she was going to be able to play going into the tournament, and she's kind of stepped up. And adrenaline, I'm sure, has helped her playing in the big stage here. And definitely tonight, she's going to have that adrenaline going. But when you have a player that just wants to get out there and grind and give it all she can possibly give for her team, and that's the difference between players that really want it and players that, you know, they just are out there. And Johnston's got the players that are hungry. You could tell after they won that semifinal game, there was tears of joy, but you can tell they want this championship as the senior leaders.
Johnston 23-2 on the year, 4 consecutive victories against the Waukee Warriors, including their only meeting here during the regular season. When we come back, we're going to talk about the top seed Waukee. Go deep into the Warriors coming up next as we continue. It's CISN Girls Basketball Breakdown. We're back with more here in a moment.
I trust, yeah, I smell like success, this Elon Musk, huh? Everybody wanna be like us, we don't stop, cause the top just ain't enough, huh? Came here ready to fight on this night, you better just run for your life.
Back once again on CISN Girls Basketball Breakdown as we get ready for tonight's Class 5A State Championship game, the Waukee Warriors and the Johnston Dragons. Coach Sigrist, as we go through, you know these teams incredibly well, as we've talked about really throughout this week. You see these teams, and no surprise, before we get into the Waukee Warriors, we're going to dive into them. 6th time in the last 8 years, we're seeing 2 schools from the CIML face off for the big school title. It's just an incredible number, and it shows you the power. There's good teams on the east side of the state. There's good teams on the west side of the state, but just the power structure here in central Iowa.
We're battle tested every night. That is so true. You know, with Waukee and Southeast Polk, both in our immediate conference, we play them twice a year. We had a great overtime game with Waukee this year. We came close, but they found a way to win. And I think that's the reason for the CIML success is just it's a meat grinder every night. And you have to have your A game or else you're going to take a loss. And for both of these teams to have 23-2 records, that's great. I mean, that says that they're getting through that conference at a very high level.
You know, Chris, to that point, you see these girls during workouts. You work with these girls outside of the season a lot and doing different things. What is it about this area? I understand population base obviously is the bigger around here, and that certainly is a piece of it, but what is it about this area and something that 20 years ago we didn't see the number of D1 players coming out of the state of Iowa and especially central Iowa? What do you see in your day-to-day work?
Times have definitely changed from back in when I was growing up. We didn't have AAU ball, we didn't have club ball, and we didn't have coaches working so well together. And now you have girls that are playing all season long, all year long. If it's not for their high school coach, they're in the gym during the summer playing for a program like All Iowa Attack, Beyond Ball, Kingdom Hoops, you name them. There's a lot out there. But it's just, it's the culture of the school too. It's the great coaches that are out there that, are putting the time in, investing into their programs and building these programs up where they're getting into the youth. And now you got girls that are wanting to come into your program and want to be a part of it. And so now they're working at a younger age. They're starting to play basketball at 4th, 5th grade. And so over the years, they're better. And so that's really what's changed the outcome of how much the game has evolved.
Joe, let's get into the Waukee Warriors, a team you know incredibly well. And we've already taken a look at Johnston. So going to dive a little bit deeper into the top seed. Let's go in first to the keys of the game for Waukee.
Well, I think you have to start with dribble penetration, stopping dribble penetration for Johnston. You can't let Maya McDermott slice through that defense and then dump it off to a wide open layup. So I think if they stop that dribble penetration and then create dribble penetration on their side, I think those are the big keys to the game.
From you, Chris, you look at this, and one thing from that perspective, stopping that dribble penetration, McDermott, the thing that I like from the Waukee perspective is it's not just one player. Dennebeer is an outstanding defender. The steal numbers bear that out, but if she's struggling, she picks up a couple of fouls. They got both Keldermans they can throw at him. So also a lot of weapons for Waukee to stop Maya McDermott.
Absolutely. For the whole tournament, I was very impressed with Waukee's defense, and like I kept saying, they get by one person, there's always somebody right there on help side, and they just rotate really well, and they're going to have to do that tonight, but they just really work all well together. You can tell they definitely work hard in practice, and they communicate on defense. They talk very well within their teammates, but it comes back to great coaching. I mean, you hear Guess on the sideline, he's telling them he's going to close out if they're not closing on the sideline, so their closeouts are really good. Just everything on the defensive side is so fundamental.
Let's go into the players that we're going to keep an eye on. Now, we're going to be watching everybody out there, but those spotlight players you're looking at this evening, start at the top. We talked point guard on the Johnston side. I think we're going to go back that way on the Waukee side, too.
Yeah, to get this far in the 5A tournament, you need a tremendous point guard, and both of these teams have that. As far as Waukee's keys is Katie Dennebeer. Mm-hmm. She has the most tournaments the most points in the tournament so far with 49. She's shooting, 67% from three-point land, 8 of 12, and she hasn't missed a free throw yet. So
look at our math teacher helping us out today.
She's doing just everything for them, and she's shooting it at a very high level.
Love Dennebeer's game. It's a lot of fun to watch, Chris.
Yeah, she's just, I said it, she's an energizer bunny. She's on the defensive side. She's running the offense. She can shoot it. She's driving. She's just an all-around, absolutely really good point guard.
Future Drake Bulldog still has another season of basketball, though, in front of her on the high school level with Waukee next year. And maybe at the end we can make an argument who should be preseason #1 after we make our picks for tonight's title game. Let's go to another one of those key players this evening and back to the guard court again, Chris.
Yeah, Peyton Kelderman. She's not scoring at a high rate, but she's just a good team leader. She finds the open people. She gets people involved. As you can see, she has only 15 points in the tournament, but 10 rebounds, 12 assists, and she just a stat that's not up there is just her defensive play, and that's huge when you can have a player that locks up somebody and can play consistently the whole game with the same energy on the defensive side. But she's just a great player, always talking. You watch her in the game, she's always communicating, but she's all over the place. She's one of their key players on the defensive side.
And you can see right away she's one of their original trappers.
Mm-hmm.
They just showed a clip right there where she's going to turn the offensive player and either set her sister up for a trap or Dennebeer up for a trap, and then that just creates easy layups, as you can see right there. And easy opportunities, easy layups are going to be huge in this championship game.
Absolutely, and that's a good point, Joe. I always coach my girls, try to make a girl crossover at least 3 to 4 times. If you can do that, most of the time it may become a turnover, or they'll throw the ball away, and that's what she does. She turns her offensive person And you know, that's what usually happens, is the turnover usually happens because she's the one that's causing that.
Our Players to Watch presented by Handel University. One more to go for Waukee. Who do you have for us, Coach?
Well, I think it's going to be a big game for Taryn Reitzma. You know, we said Johnston has a little bit of an advantage as far as their height and rebounding ability down low. So Reitzma, and I'll throw Ernie in there, as they're going to have to block out really well. They're going to have to limit Johnston to one shot, you know, because, and then when that dribble penetration comes, are they going to be there to help? So I think on the defensive end, we're talking about Taryn Reitzma having to be really big.
Well, and one thing that I also look at when you kind of talk about that depth inside, we've seen Bartholomew come off the bench, play very well, but they really don't have a traditional backup post player. And if Reitzma has to leave the game because of foul trouble, Ernie, same thing. She battled foul trouble back in the semifinal victory. That's the one place where Waukee doesn't have a lot of depth, and I think shows you the importance of Reitzma tonight. It
does, but that's where I'll give Coach Guest a lot of props as well. He'll turn it into a guards game. He's going to pressure until, you know, so that the ball doesn't make it down to the big girls, just like it did for Waterloo West. They were having a hard time getting it down to their freshman and sophomore post players. So I think he'll have something up his sleeve defensively for that.
Deep dive into the Waukee Warriors as they get ready for Johnston tonight. Well, before we get out of here, we're going to make our predictions for what they're worth, and they're not worth very much, but we'll make our predictions for the championship game here this evening. I do have a couple of questions, though, I do want to pose to you guys. And the first is, we're talking about Waukee. Easy victory in the quarterfinal, continuous clock against Sioux City East. Early on, some rough patches for Waukee, but they controlled that game and dominated and pulled away for an easy victory against Waterloo West. Now, tonight, we anticipate it's going to be closer. Waukee hasn't played, at least lately, a whole lot of close games. Is that at all a concern to you? Because Johnston, a little more battle-tested, at least here in the state tournament, does that give a slight advantage because of that, if it is a tight game to the Dragons?
It definitely gives Waukee momentum. They're riding on two big wins. They came out and dominated, so they got a little bit probably more momentum going in. Johnston, you know, they came in and had some tight games, and they were battle tested. They saw a lot of different things, so you know there's good and bad on both sides. But definitely, I would say that they probably have a little bit momentum just because they came in and did what they needed to do and made a statement.
15 three-pointers for Waukee. We see this happen a lot. A team shoots it so well, then one game and the next game. Is that just, well, maybe a broadcaster from my perspective, you know, something that jumps into the head, or can that play in, especially after shooting the ball incredibly well? Then you come to the next game and the first couple of shots don't go down and you start maybe doubting yourself a little bit.
Well, they started off 2 for 9 in the semifinals, and then what I talked about was Coach Guest was probably saying, get into the paint further, create better shots for your teammates as far as wide open threes that you can step right into and knock them down. So I think that's going to be the key. The defense plays a lot into whether or not a shot goes down, because if you can get a hard closeout, 2 high hands is what we work on and practice every day. If you can get 2 high hands on a shot, I think that makes the shot so much tougher.
X's and O's, all right? Let's kind of scheme a little bit more on each side. Is there something, we know what these teams are, we know what they want to do, but is there a tweak? Is there something you see on either side, either Johnston or Waukee, that you look at and say, if I got the year of Coach Jellick, if I got the Coach of the Year of Coach Guest, I'd say, how about you do this? Try this. I think it could work.
I definitely think that Waukee, like Joe said, he's going to have some stuff up his sleeve on the defensive end, and that's the kind of the game changer for me, is on the defensive end. And I can see, he's going to have stuff, and then, you know, what's the matchup's going to be for Johnson? Who's going to guard Dennebeer? I think it may be Kendall Need on her, but it'll be interesting to see if it'll be Maya McDermott. What's the matchup's going to be? Because they're going to probably come out in man-to-man, but what's those matchups going to be? Because Kendall Need, she guarded Grace Larkin really well in the first game. She usually guards the top players, so it'll just see who's the matchups, and then, you know, that might change as the game goes on.
I think you'll have some mixing up of defenses from Coach Guest, some zones. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 1-1-3, a triangle and 2. Whereas Johnston, I think they're going to be straight man-to-man all game. They might do a little bit more passive, get a little bit more aggressive, but I think that's going to play into, Waukee having a little bit more comfort on the offensive end than Johnston does. But I tell you what, those senior leadership for Johnston, I've been going back and forth all day.
Well, let's do it right now. Let's put it out on video, our predictions for the game. Chris, lead it off. You get the opening honors. Who's going to win the 5A championship tonight?
Like I said, this is going to be a tough one, but I'm going to go with Johnston. I'm putting in the senior leadership. They've wanted it. They've been here. I really like Maya McDermott, Kendall Need, and I like the rebounding from Mighty Mock. And then, they really impressed me with their bench play in the semifinal game. And so this wasn't easy. And I pretty much went 60-40 just because it's so close, but my biggest thing was the senior leadership.
Johnston Dragons for Chris Morrow. All right. Coach Sigrist, now I know one side or the other, you're going to get half the people mad, and you're going to have to face these teams next year.
Right.
We're still going to put you on the spot, though.
Like Chris said, it's been a tough decision. I've been going back and forth all day. I love Johnston's three-headed monster as far as senior leadership. Like I said, that was our success last year. But I also love Guess's mixing of defenses and not letting Johnston, I think, go on those extended runs. So I'm going to have to go on the other side of the coin with Chris and go with our immediate rival in our conference, and I'll pick Waukee.
Going with Waukee. All right, well, I guess I have to be the deciding vote here, and, well, you're going to make it difficult on me, too. But I'm going with Johnston. It feels like their time. They've been here. They've been in this title game years ago, haven't got over the hump, and I just think the time is now. I think it will be a Johnston Dragon victory. 75-71. It's going to be a good one, though. Goes down to the wire. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Get some points up and down the floor. I'll take the Dragons to win it all. Well, with that, I mentioned be fun to look forward to next season. We've seen so much great talent from here on the local level, what your team's going to have going next season, Coach. And I already had the argument down to the state tournament talking to some people down there. I think Southeast Polk should be preseason #1 next year. Other people tell me I'm crazy. It should be Waukee, and you can throw in a host of other teams. So who is your #1 preseason team next year without even knowing who wins tonight?
Right. That's tough, but I think Waukee is the preseason #1 next year because of their guard play and everyone returning.
Get everybody back. How about you?
Well, I could be nice and say Valley, but I definitely will go with Waukee too. They return everybody, and they've been here, and so I definitely am gonna go with Waukee.
There it is. A look forward to 2021, but we still got another game in front of us. All playing tonight for what Coach is wearing on his finger, a championship ring. It's Johnston and Waukee, the 5A state championship. You can catch it on IPTV and also on the radio as Chris and I will have the call on 1460 KXNO and 106.3 FM. Thanks for being with us all week long here on CISN Girls Basketball Breakdown.